Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to study something about the while loop. Now in the previous tutorial we have learned what are for loops and where they are used for. So in this tutorial we are going to discuss something about while loops and where they are used. So a for loop and while loop are used for the same purpose, that is repeating a set of code n number of times. But the major difference between the while loop and the for loop is that there is a difference in writing a while loop and writing a for loop. So the basic syntax of creating a for loop is different from a syntax of creating a while loop. Now in the for loop, we had three statements inside the parameter section. The first was the initialization, the next one was conditional checking, and the third one was an increment or decrement operation. But in the while loop, we have a single parameter. So in order to understand what a while loop is, we simply create a while loop. So we type while as the keyword and we have the parameters similar to the for loop, and then we have the opening and closing curly braces, and inside the while loop we have a single condition just like the if statement. So we have the condition over here. Now as long as this condition in while loop is satisfied, the code inside the while loop is always going to get executed. So let's specify some condition in this while loop. So in order to give a condition in while loop, let's go outside the while loop and let's create a variable and let's name the variable as count. So basically the counter variable is going to count how many number of times the code is executed. So let's initialize the value of counter to be 0, as it is going to start from 0, and let's say we want to execute the code 5 times. So in the while loop we give a condition like counter should be less than 5. So as long as the value of counter is less than 5, the code inside the while loop is going to get executed. So now let's go ahead and create some basic code inside the while loop. So let's type document dot write, and let's say this is the code inside a loop. And now for formatting, let's give a break after each line. So we type /br tag from HTML. Now once we have this piece of code right here, one more thing which you need to include is that you need to include an increment statement inside the while loop. Now the reason for that is whenever you initialize the value of counter to 0, this condition is always going to get satisfied. So the while loop is going to start from here and it is going to check that okay, 0 is less than 5, and that means that the condition is true. So the code inside the while loop should be executed. So it is going to execute this code, and again it is going to come over here, and again it is going to compare the value of 5 with 0. And this will continue on, and it is going to crash your computer. So in order to avoid crashing your computer, one thing which you could do is that you could use a counter inside and you increment the value of counter by 1 every time this loop executes. Now what happens is that every time the while loop executes, the counter value gets incremented, and eventually a point comes where the value of counter turns out to be 5, and 5 is never less than 5. So this condition gets false, and this code inside here is only going to get executed 5 times, and that is from 0 to 4. So now if we save the code and we execute it, we are going to get this line of sentence printed 5 times, and that is because we have given the condition that the counter should always be less than 5. So the basic syntax of while loop is different from a for loop. So in a for loop we had these three conditions, which was the initialization, the condition checking, as well as the increment or decrement operation inside the single loop. But in while loop we only have conditional checking. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you understood what while loops are. So basically while loops and for loops are used for one and the same function, that is repeating a set of code. The only difference between a while loop and for loop is that the basic syntax for creating both of them are different. In for loop we have 3 conditions or 3 statements inside the parameter section, and in while loop we have only one statement, which is the condition checking or conditional statement, which checks the condition, and depending upon that condition it is going to execute or it is going to loop through this code. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.